Welcome to the broadcast, my dear old fruits. The supermodel is back in town. Move over, Christy. Move over, Kate. Naomi. Janice Dickinson. Twiggy. RuPaul. It's Nutmeg Sparkle. Here she is. She's got all the moves and the turns and the pouts and the quivers. She's just such a pro. I was born for Vogue. You're a rogue, Meghan Markle, and we all know it. This contrivance was all going on at the 15% pledge fundraising gala, or gala as they say overseas, and I'm quite sure that in the flesh this gown and its shades, its tones, its hues would look rather sumptuous. I'm not going to put that past it, but somehow when she pulls it all together and she wears it every single time in these beige affairs, these greige affairs, these monochrome mysteries, she always seems to look as if she has left a black sock in with the white laundry. Do you understand? This is how it looks. Always unclean and dirty, doesn't it, my darling? The frock itself was over $4,000, but she still manages to make it look cheap, doesn't she? It looks cheap, ill-fitting, and unwashed. It was designed by Harbison Studio, after the designer Charles Harbison, who is based out of LA, and I will admit that it is certainly an improvement on many of the looks that she has served us over the years. Yeah, she's actually making some progress and some strides in the past year. I will give her that. It's not awful. The charity that she's mixing with here, 15% pledge, acknowledges that black folk make up 15% of the US population, and so it lobbies retailers to reflect that fact on all of their shelves, you see, with black-owned brands. Lobbies or bullies? I won't go there, but as for Meghan's complexion with regards to her maquillage, the cosmetics, fair to middling. Yeah, I mean, she wasn't bronzed up to the max as we've seen her do. She wasn't shaking talcum powder all over the place either to talc herself down. It does look a little bit pasty, and for my money, I think she'd look nice with a little bit more pink on the cheeks and more pinky rouge, just a little dot, but that's my fancy. And I quite like that on her, but she didn't go overboard with that too much this time, although she was laying it on thick. I mean, you'd need a trowel to layer it on for that oh-so-natural look that she gives us. But that said, the cape she was wearing is called the Galaxy Cape, another $4 or $5 for this number that she slung over her shoulders. What's wrong with a nice stole or a nice sable? Do you understand? But she has to give us the whole couture affair, doesn't she? Actually, the cape is rather wonderful, I thought, and rather splendid, but $2,000 for this occasion, and certainly $2,000 for her. You are not the Duchess of Windsor, darling. You're the Duchess of Not Muchness. But I did pick up on the fact that she was using it to some success, actually, to enhance the curvature or lack of curvature that is featured in her natural silhouette, and what the tailors have failed to achieve with her there, because when the number was originally brought to public attention, it's usually paired with a belt, this kind of thing. There's a bit of cinch. She didn't want to go down that route. She's not often successful down that route, so she is using the sort of shrug of the cape to perform illusions, and I've often told her, accentuate the positive, what there is a bit, and eliminate the negative, so I will give her props for doing that and using this cape as a prop on this occasion. But as I say, $2,000. Now, this was interesting. This event was actually honouring her frenemy, who we've discussed on a few occasions, Tina Knowles, mother of Beyoncé, matriarch extraordinaire. Perhaps it's a case of keep your friends close and your enemies in your pocket. I wouldn't be surprised. Speaking of which, she also was clinging on to dear life to Emma Greed, one of her new besties, frenemy besties, that we've been seeing her mingle with of late. This was for Tina Knowles and her commitment to empowering black communities and makers. And what's that I hear you cry, white people? Unfair, racist? Well, go suck salt. You're all full of white privilege, this, that, and the fourth. You don't deserve any of this attention. You don't deserve a slice of this pie, any of this success. No. Noses out. Now, her gems on this occasion were slightly more interesting than what she usually gives us. The usual bangles and Diana's cast-offs, this, that, and the third. This time, there were onyx and diamond pendants to the ear, with a matching fluted bomb ring, plucked from the 1970s, and provided by an estate jewellery dealer. Friends of mine actually go to a lot of those grand estate sales in LA. I've heard that you can pick up some marvellous bargains, as this dealer has obviously done, and then sold them on to suckers such as Meghan, who've got more money than sense, unless it was a deal, unless they were provided free, because she did pop up on all of their socials. I'll be coming back to Meghan a little bit later, but I wanted to mention also this unfortunate incident this week with regards to coins that have been released down under. This is by the Royal Australian Mint. These coins were released to mark the centenary of Queen Elizabeth II's birth, which was actually on the 21st of April 1926. Yeah, that's coming up, that anniversary. But they were released in an online ballot. And what do you think of these? As you might not be surprised to learn, they have been strongly criticised and not well received by the public at all. Can't think why, can you? Stanley Baxter, I'm saying nothing. Now, I will say I've got some sympathy for the makers of this, because it is a difficult medium to work with, and what looks good in digital format doesn't always render quite so easily. But it's quite clear to me, nevertheless, that these images should never have been signed off. How on earth did they get past all the checks here? Royal Mint Australia responded saying that the coin images don't often capture the full beauty of a design once it is etched into the metal. Well, yeah, you can say that again, because this is more Dame Edna than Queen Elizabeth, isn't it, my dear Dame Edna Everage? It's also drawn comparisons to Mrs. Doubtfire, Mrs. Brown, and Shrek, and it's been called a monstrosity. One of the things they did wrong, apart from making it look as if she's had her face beaten in by a shovel, I mean, she looks very flat-faced in this, doesn't she, my dear? Well, the other mistake was giving her teeth. They should have done what they do in most art, statues, for example, and leave the teeth out of it, because they're very difficult to render successfully without looking rather absurd. On the flip, she is surrounded by symbols of her life, which look very pretty. Corgis and horses, that's all very nice. But all in all, most unfortunate. The Prince and Princess of Wales released a statement through a spokesman of theirs from Kensington Palace regarding the furore over Prince Andrew, as he was, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor as he's known now, saying that I can confirm that, I would think he meant to say, or she meant to say, I can confirm the Prince and Princess have been deeply concerned by the continuing revelations. Their thoughts remain focused on the victims. Ah, the victims we know so well. They shine in your eyes when they fucking tell. Well, all of that's very mucky business, isn't it, my dear? It is not something that I wish to dwell on at all. A mucky business. But Delwyn Jenkins asks me what I think about it, saying, Hi River, as a loyal New Zealand fruit basketeer, a Kiwi, I am asking where you stand on the latest facts regarding Prince Andrew, now known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. My dear, I stand at the same point of perspective that I've always stood at, which is that there has always been undesirable behaviour emanating from both Andrew and Sarah, a lot of silly nonsense, a lot of stupidity, and on occasion wanton recklessness, and a regrettable lack of dignity and caution. What I have said in the past is that there had been no proof or evidence of any criminal behaviour. He had not been charged for any crime, and certainly no evidence of any attraction to children. But, as I always made clear, if any evidence was to come to light, then there should be a thorough investigation. And it looks like there was a distinct possibility of that happening, not in regards so much to the alleged behaviour with females at this point in time, but in relation to state secrets falling into the hands of Epstein and being given to him freely by Andrew. But let's see what bubbles up over the next few days in relation to that. But it's all very regrettable, isn't it, for everyone involved. As Prince Edward said recently, yes, there are many victims, but what he also made clear in a very elegant way is that victims aren't necessarily contained to those who the press might tar as victims. He posed the quiz, and who exactly are the victims?
It's all really important always to remember the victims. And who are the victims in all this?
Because the answer to that question is broader and deeper and perhaps more curious than some might think, or that some might pay lip service to, or that some might assume at first glance. Tanis Winter says, what was he doing on all fours on the floor beside a young woman? Well, in relation to that photograph and that incident, Tanis Winter, I couldn't care less what he was doing. He's a grown adult larking about, and I think a lot's been made about the unfortunate pose he found himself in that photograph. I saw somebody suggesting that he looked drug-crazed in the photograph, which I think is so silly. I'm sure there's a million and one things you could accuse Andrew of, and you might be right. And whether or not he was drug-crazed, I don't know. I wasn't there. But what I will tell you is that it's quite clear to see that he only looks crazed in that photograph because he's got a red eye in it and because of the strange angle. He also looks as if he knew he was being photographed for that photograph. I don't know if he knew or if it was covertly done, which is also possible, but he looked like he was quite happy and willing to be photographed. And the woman, who I've seen others intimate might have been unconscious during that photograph, that is certainly something I do not believe in the slightest, and I've seen other photographs where she is actually raising an arm. And I'd put money on the fact that there's an entirely innocent explanation for that photograph in particular. Quite sure that everything going on there was consensual, and I do feel that there are many people out there, it's quite unfortunate really, who live very sheltered lives, the pearl clutchers. And I'm not saying this in relation to any of the other photographs, any of the other whispers going around, but just this particular one that's made all the headlines. People out there have led some very sheltered lives, haven't they, my dear, who obviously haven't been around adults having fun and a bit irresponsible and a bit raucous and a bit naughty, especially when all of that was more encouraged a few short decades ago. But of course it's nevertheless silly behaviour for someone in line to the throne, especially who was closer to the throne at that time, who is Prince Charles, as he was his brother. It's incredibly silly, irresponsible to be captured in such a compromising pose and attitude, but it makes it all the more clear, doesn't it, with their stupid behaviour, the York's behaviour, and Sarah's, of course, and their dishonesties. It makes it all the more clearer how fortunate we are to have William and Catherine, of course, around the corner. Of course, I have a great deal of respect for our existing king and queen at the moment, but with Catherine and William around the corner, you know, we're talking about people here with sterling values who have a moral compass and who are discreet and considerate. So while I'm certainly dismayed at Andrew's behaviour and Sarah's behaviour, I'm not clutching my pearls at this point in time. I'm certainly not indulging the McCarthy-esque hysteria surrounding these events, this turn of events. But let's see what's round the corner and what's yet to be revealed. Now that could be a horse of a different colour. Catherine has been in Winchester, gorgeous, gorgeous Winchester, for a private visit at the Ark, and she was looking absolutely splendid in a cashmere coat, bespoke Burberry, of tailored wool. She said, "My thanks to the team at the Ark in Winchester. It was inspiring to see how they have placed creativity at the heart of the community and made art widely accessible. This was at the Beauty of the Earth exhibition, and it was a powerful reminder of the connection between nature, creativity and craft. The Beauty of the Earth, the art of May, Jane and William Morris, celebrates the enduring legacy of the Morris family." Did you see Prince William out and about in North London? Yes, our Big Willie was hanging out with some other big boys. This was the rap artiste, Big Zoo. I presume it's pronounced Zoo, it's Z-U-U. Zoo, woo, woo, woo. This was during a visit to the Black Roots Growing Project, as part of the We Move Forward programme, funded by BBC. That's BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation, my dear, in case you were confused. Not Big Black Cock. BBC and their children in need. William met with 3 youth clubs that are overseen by the We Move Forward charity with a 10-year commitment in collaboration with BBC Radio to create opportunities for children and for young people of ethnic minorities across the kingdom. So it appears that there's no shortage of such opportunities, doesn't it, my dear? because you hear about them all the fucking time. There were potted plants and perennials for William to peruse, and he had the time of his life, quite frankly. And a final cosy little send-off for Dame Jilly Cooper. This was at Southwark Cathedral, a memorial service sponsored by Mert and Chandon. She was cremated at a private ceremony last year, and she died at the age of 88 after a fall at home, if you remember. And Queen Camilla, who was a great friend of Jilly's, joined loads of lovies. There was the cast of Rivals, Rupert Everett was there, old Rupie, Derek Jacobi, oh, such a sweet man, isn't he? I was watching him being interviewed by Jilly Brandreth, our Giles. Giles has a podcast called Rosebud, something along those lines, the Rosebud Show, and I've been watching a few of his interviews, very nice on there, and he did Derek Jacobi recently. It was gorgeous, so you might want to have a little squiz at that. David Tennant, and Patsy Stone, there she is, our darling Patsy, and naturally Jilly Brandreth was here as well amongst this crew, and she was described by so many people as fun at this send-off, which is exactly how, if I was to be remembered at all, I'd rather like to be. Although I don't really care to be remembered, I'm quite happy to be forgotten, as we all are, my dear. Even the biggest names and faces in our history are nothing but a memory within a few short decades, or, maybe a century or two. But fun is a lovely legacy, isn't it? Brigadier Andrew Parker Bowles, the Queen's former husband, also contributed to the service, and one of Princess Anne's amours as well, as he was. Handsome old Andy. And Her Majesty was wearing blue silk with a cashmere top stitch coat by Anna Valentine. The handbag was Dior. Now, we all know, of course, that Meghan gave Harry her cookie, didn't she? And he munches with gay abandon at every single opportunity. Munches it with glee, does well. Cookie Queens is the title of their latest expedition, their foray into film production. Cookie Queens is a 91-minute film produced by the Harkles. They were executive producers. Meghan has brought her husband into the world of the executive and executiveship. This follows the story of 4 tenacious girls who battle it out to be Cookie Queen. Is this art reflecting life? Be as tenacious as you feel is necessary. Rachel. There is only one queen, destined to follow Camilla as consort to our kingdom, and her name is Catherine. Could we just make that crystal clear? Her name is Catherine. So lower your social climbing ambitions. Do you understand? I hear there's a vacancy for the Cookie Monster. You might want to go for that, my dear, rather than Cookie Queen. Start painting yourself blue instead of jazzing yourself up with bronzer and talcum powder in other directions, do you see? Paint yourself blue and you can be Cookie Monster. Now, this was at a premiere at Sundance Film Festival, which reminds me, what's happened to that other movie that they're supposed to be working on, Meet Me at Ricky Lake? That seems to have evaporated. Where are we going with this? Meet Me at Salt Lake? Salt Lake City? This is what's going on now, isn't it? It's certainly not going to be up there with Meet Me in St. Louis, is it? That's Robert Redford's daughter that you see there. Oh, wow. Who put baby in the corner? It's not often that you see Meghan at the sideshow, is it? There she is, carrying her watermelons. Cookie Queens revolves around the movement of the Girl Scouts, and she's so keen to tell us, as usual, I was a Girl Scout, my mum was a troop leader, blah, 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 blah. And then the film gets a 2-minute standing ovation, apparently, not quite sure why. I'll remain open-minded. I haven't seen it, but I'm quite sure that it'll go the way of all their other projects down the plug hole. With love, axed, by the way. No season 3 incoming. Nobody was watching. This is according to page 6. Maybe there might be a few holiday specials, but it's been absolutely dismal viewing figures for With Love, Meghan. In fact, it came in at number 383. With only 5.3 million global views. Let that sink in. All that publicity, mainly bad, I'll grant it, but still publicity nevertheless. Number 383. A disgrace. Prince Harry's surfing coach has been popping up on the socials. This Ray Marner chap has been posting Instagram clips of his famous client robed in a black wetsuit and swimming trunks. Oh, heaven forbid. He's been surfing USA. For a moment I thought that was Jeffrey Epstein coming up the rear. Crouching Harry, Hidden Geoffrey. This Raymana bloke seems like a very nice chap. Apparently he's a Tahitian surfing star. And he says, in Tahiti we still call you Prince Harry, but at Surf Ranch it's my brother. No, this is not AI, by the way. I know some of you might disparage the prince, but no, I've checked out the social media clips of all his other clients, and it looks exactly the same sort of thing there, this high-definition affair. Very impressive, I'm sure, and a delightful break from the missus. But in more regal news, Her Majesty was visiting Wiltshire Museum to celebrate the success of the Assizes for Devises project. That's Assizes, by the way, not ass sizes. I know it's spelt that way, but it is not a buttock measuring competition. Devizes is a very sweet market town, you see, in the kingdom. And this is going to be transforming the Assize Court building into a new home for the museum and give their collections the space that they deserve. The museum was established in 1874 and it contains the largest collection of early Bronze Age gold ever put on display in England. How about that? It's also home to treasures from the Stonehenge and Avebury World Heritage Site. Last year it was announced that the Queen had agreed to become patron of the Wiltshire Museum, and in this photo with the Queen you can see Peter Chawton. Now he is the husband of Sarah Chawton, who is one of Queen Camilla's besties and actually her companion, one of her companions, because Sarah is Lord Lieutenant of Wiltshire, you see, and her husband Peter there is the chair of the Devizes Assizes Court Trust. And Sarah Chawton's mother, you see, was a Bowes lion, like the late Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. So there's that link. She's actually a cousin to Charles through that line, you see. Do you see how the circle turns, how the circle is squared? There was a delightful pairing at the University of Surrey of the Duchess of Edinburgh and the Duke of Kent. They do this sometimes, and it's really lovely always to see them together. They visited Surrey to recognise the university's multidisciplinary teaching and research across medicine and engineering. The Duke is marking 50 years as Chancellor of the university, and at the Space Centre, their Royal Highnesses toured the laboratories, met researchers, and viewed a student-designed pod which will be used to launch satellites into space. There have been a few ceremonies hosted by the Princess Royal at the Palace of St James. In fact, Bishma Asare was awarded the MBE for services to education and mental awareness. He is the founder of Rap Therapy. And Sujan Katual, MBE, who is a community champion and a restaurateur. And there was a darts player and a co-CEO of the company Cook, which I was delighted to see. Yeah, the co-CEO of Cook Frozen Foods, because I told you on a number of occasions, no, I am not sponsored, that I get all of my daily meals from Cook, from a dedicated freezer that I have stuffed full of all of their frozen food ready meals, which are the best quality kind of ready meals with a sort of homemade feel to them that one can find in the kingdom. Lifesaver they are. So I'm delighted to see Rosalie Brown given the CBE, and received in audience at Buckingham Palace was the President of Guyana. He was received by the King, and then at Clarence House, the President of the Republic of Indonesia visited the King. But as usual, I just get distracted by the furnishings, and I was looking at that blue paint, wondering which shade it is. I might have to write to the King. Thank you for your company, and thanks for sharing your fruity thoughts in the comments section. Thanks to those of you who might have sent a tip jar treat my way for a cup of coffee or a slice of cake or a little pan au chocolat. Thank you so much, merci, and I look forward to seeing you on the next show. Ta-ra, my dears, and to the pip.